Mrs. Amy123, and today I'm going to show you how I do my week-to-week planning. Now usually I would do all of my planning at school during my planning sessions. However, this last week, I don't know what happened to me, but planning slipped my mind and I completely and utterly forgot to do it. So because I don't like filming at school and doing all my business stuff at school, I thought I'd take the opportunity to do it at home and film this for you and show you how I go about it. So first of all, let's talk about setup. When I am planning at school, the first thing that I have is my laptop because I do all my planning digitally. Now don't get me wrong, love hand planning, I think it looks gorgeous, but one, it takes a long time to do, especially when you're trying to write neat and make it look perfect. It's just so much simpler and easier for me to quickly type it on my laptop. The second reason I like using my laptop is because I can draw on past planners and unit plans to just copy and paste things in. Just makes things so much quicker and easier. And as I said, I refer to my last year's planners quite a lot. So by having them digitally, I just bring them up and boom, they're there. I don't have to carry around last year's planning book and look through it every time that I want to plan. It's just all on my computer. Now while I say on my computer, I must say that I am a USB planner. So what that means is that at school I use my school laptop and at home I use my at-home laptop, and they are not connected. I could put all of my information on my school computer, but I like the flexibility of having my USB so I can bring it home if I ever needed to, or if I'm going to another computer, if I don't have access to my room for that prep session, I just take my USB and it's a lot easier. I started using USB quite a few years ago because at first I was taking my own laptop to school because I was so familiar with it. I could do everything so quickly, a lot quicker than I could on the school's computers, which were just a bit different and a bit more clunky. But I hated taking my laptop to school because if I forgot it at school, oh my gosh, end of the world. Or if like I broke it and I was forever damaging them and losing charges and just different things happening, so I went to a USB. Now some of you might be saying, why don't you go to a cloud-based storage system? Well, at the time that I started using USB, the cloud-based storage systems just weren't that reliable. Some of the documents were getting distorted on them, and then our school Wi-Fi was not the best, whereas a USB is always going to work whether you've got a Wi-Fi connection or not. Now recently I did actually lose my USB for about 6 weeks. I couldn't find it at all. So I decided to take the opportunity to try a cloud-based system, and I used OneDrive. And it had its advantages. Not having to get a USB out was great, but it also had a lot of disadvantages. For example, I had to log in every single time I wanted to go on it. If I left my laptop and it went idle, I'd have to sign back in again the next time I went on it. If I wanted to print, I actually had to download it to the computer before I sent it to the printer because otherwise it wouldn't print. It was just really clunky. So when I finally found this again, I was like, nope, I'm going back to a USB. Yes, I could possibly lose this, but it's just the way that I prefer to do it. So I have my laptop set up, I plugged my USB in, and then the other thing that I have is my term planner. Now, if you're interested in these, I actually have these available for free. I'll leave information in the description box about how you can access these. But basically I have my key subjects across the top that I need to plan for in my timetable each week. And then I also mention the unit planners that I'm using. So for text types, technologies, health, HAS, and science, I have a unit planner that I refer to and I can just copy and paste from them. Whereas these, I've actually got to plan more lessons around them, or they're a subject that I need to input into my timetable. I have this as a hard copy because it's easier for me to glance down at this and then write it onto my laptop than it is to swap screens. And you may say that I could have both things up on a screen, but it's just easier to have the full screen as my timetable. So that's what I've got on my desk. There's a couple of other planning documents that I also sometimes have it on my desk that just make it quicker. For example, when I'm pulling spelling activities, it's just easier to have the document printed out with all the spelling activities written into them, so I can just put them into the computer than it is to open up that document and find them. Same thing, we do sound waves, so whatever unit and sounds we're working on, I have the printed document so I can just input that. So now that I've explained how I set myself up, let's go to the computer so I can show you how I do this all. Okay, so on my USB I have a file called 2020 where I have my term planners. So as you can see here, I've got the term 2 ones. I just click on my most recent one because there's no point starting afresh every week and having to put in all the headings and all the subjects again. So all I do is I just go up the top first of all, save as, change that file name to week 8 and save. Then I swap out my headers so I know that this is my current version, week 8, week 8. Now, I have done lots of different templates over the years, and currently I am on 2 pages worth of planning. I find it's easiest not to have set things locked in. So here where it says recess is not the same place that it says recess over here on a Tuesday. And the reason for that is because, like, on this day where I have a dot session in the morning, somebody else is taking my class, that, if it was lined up with the other side, would have heaps of white space, and it's just not needed, and it just ends up taking up heaps and heaps of pages if you try and lay it out that way, or at least that's what I found. So what I do here is I have strips. They're just color coded. I just go up to the highlighter and color that strip in. Purple for lunch and recess, so it stands out really easily. And then any subject where another teacher takes it, I also have that color coordinated. I also sometimes break up my subjects with these dotted lines, like you can see over here between HASS and problem solving. I've used those dotted lines just to make it a little bit clearer so I can see where I'm up to, but I don't always use it, especially if I run out of room. That's one of the things that I delete. So once I've got this open, the first thing I go in and do is just swap out the easy things, so the spelling activities. Now, like I said, usually I would have my book open with me with all my spelling strategies in it. Now, I don't have that at home with me today, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go back here to the USB where I actually have a 2019 folder, and this is all my stuff from last year. So if I go into term 2 here and click on week 8, I can see what I did last year. You can see I was using the same template, and I can copy and paste a lot of this stuff. So I did sand words and string words on Monday and Tuesday, so I'm just going to transpose that in, sand words, and I've forgotten the other one, string words. Okay, spelling's down here on a Tuesday. And then go to Wednesday, Thursday. We have bracelet words and roll a font. I often do spelling mistakes because I'm typing so fast. I just fix them up as I go. What was this one? This was roll a word. Oh no, roll a font, wasn't it? Roll a font, and then the other one is roll a shape. Okay, so then I go back up and I swap out all of the topic concepts that fit a routine. So for example, here where we have literacy rotations, my theme this coming week in week 8 is inferring. So I'll just write that in so I remember to cover that. When I'm in reading groups, I also look at the vocabulary topic here, and this week I am doing movement. So I just write that in. And we'll be up to unit 15 in sound waves. Oh, sorry, what am I? No, that's not movement, that's interjections. I was looking at the wrong way. Interjections. Okay, and then writing. This is another one that's on my term planners, and it's about structuring introductions. So structuring introductions. And I know that introductions are best done via a persuasive text. So then I just have to think of a topic that the kids could write about. Often I just think about these on the spot because it might be something to do with something we're learning about at the time, something that's topical. So I'll probably just leave that blank and think about it later. And if I can't think of one, I just go to my persuasive writing prompts. I've got heaps of prompts in there and I just pick one. Okay, now down here we're still doing mental math sorting strips at the moment, so I leave that in. And then with maths, because I'm planning it in a different way this year, I'm using my maths programs. So they're basically like a unit planner. Because there's so much to them and so many steps, I can't actually fit them on this planner anymore. So I actually just print my maths program off separate and look at that separately. So this week will be multiplication and division. So I just write that in. And that will be in a separate planner. And if I remember at the end here, I might come back and type and just show you what that looks like. Now, at the moment, we're not actually doing reading comprehension activities. I've just got them working through a program called Reading Eggs. This will probably be the last week that we do that. It was just something our school has paid for because of the COVID thing and schools not being at school for a while. We thought it was going to be longer than what it was. So we did Reading Eggs. I've just been using it in my classroom. And Mondays for maths often run a lot longer than they would usually do on any other days because it's introducing the topics, it's getting their prior knowledge. So this will only end up being about half an hour of reading eggs. Now you'll notice that I don't actually have times on my timetable. That's because I've been teaching long enough now that things just flow. I know my literacy rotations are going to take about 20 minutes, spelling is going to be about 15, vocab is going to be about 10, sound waves about 10 to 15, and then writing is good to go up until recess when we run out of time and we leave it no matter how far we've got. Most students will usually finish in that time. It just flows naturally. I don't really like having time limits there and stopping another activity before it's time to. Like if the kids need extra time, I'm going to give them extra time. But at the same time, I'm not the type of teacher that's just going to let it run on forever. I do keep it very routine. We know when it's time to move on. Now down the bottom here we have health, and this is actually going to be a caffeine lesson. Caffeine questions. And that is a search using QR codes. Now, I don't want to go and find it right now. I know that's what we're doing, and I know that's what we're doing because we're working through the challenges and choices. I don't know if that's an Australia-wide resource or just here in WA. The challenges and choices unit on caffeine. And if I came back here, I think it was in term 3 that I did it last year, but it's all really higgity-piggy, so I don't want to waste your time trying to find that, but I know that that's the next lesson in it. And I would usually go and find that and copy and paste it in there. Okay, so over here on Tuesday, most of this is already done, so I just skip down here. Now, HAS. What I can do here is because I'm teaching the same HAS topic that I was in term 2 last year, I can just find it here on this timetable, copy it, and paste it in. See how that easy that is? If you're teaching the same subject, same year level, again and again each year, you can just copy and paste from your previous ones. Now, last week we did act it out on the worksheet, but this week we are actually moving on to the next topic, which is find a pattern. And this is a PowerPoint that I have. I have one on every single problem-solving strategy, and we just work our way through in groups. They try and solve the problems that I present, and then after a little while we talk about how did you find the answer and give students opportunities to explain how they did it. So find a pattern, and we just go through the PowerPoint questions in groups. So you can see here that I utilize a lot of routine things in my classroom. Every week I know I'm doing problem solving, I know I'm doing HAS, I know I'm doing vocab. That makes it really, really quick and easy to come in here and plan because you've got things in a routine. If you're constantly swapping up your timetable every week and going, what do I feel like doing here? Then it's going to take longer. Oh, the other thing I didn't swap up here was this would be the multiplication and division lesson 2. So let's copy and paste that. And might as well keep copying and pasting that in for the next couple of maths lessons. Oh, that one's weird formatting, but formatting doesn't really matter too much to me. If it doesn't look exactly the same, that's all right. Okay, so they're copied in. Now let's go back up here. I just work my way down, looking at what's been done. Okay, so maths fluency, this one here, this is something that I have been trying and it's been working really, really well. It's just a really simple, easy game that the kids can play to practice their number facts. Now, at the moment, I've actually been working my way through a book by Paul Swan. He is a WA local and he has a whole heap of books, just really simple games. He has dice dazzlers, he has a multiplication tables one, so many others that I can't even think of the name of right now. So I just pick one out of there to do. So last time we did students roll 3 dice, the highest number of the 3 is set aside, they roll the remaining 2, and again the highest number is set aside, then they roll the last dice, add all them together, and the highest score wins. So just really simple games. Now, what are we going to do for this week? Because I have that at school, so I can't look into that document. I think we might do... let's do turn over 2 cards each. Students make a number of their choice. Both numbers must be added together. First person to add it correctly wins. So you see, I don't always put lots and lots of effort into exactly what is going to happen and all the nitpick points of each part of the lesson. Like, this is just a simple instruction. Most relief teachers would be able to come and understand that. The only thing that might be confusing there is that they might think the students are adding their two numbers together, but let's say both two-digit numbers must be added together. So yeah, just really, really simple. Silent reading. Okay, this is technologies. Let me show you what this looks like if I didn't teach the same year level, if I wasn't teaching the same year level again this year, and this was the first time I was in year 5, but I still had a unit done up for technologies. What I'd do is I'd come back to my USB here and I would find my year 5 technology units. We are currently doing information systems. I would open up my unit planner for that. So if you've never seen my unit plans before, this is what they look like. All the jargon stuff that you have to have at the top. I also love having teaching strategies up the top to make sure that I'm using a range in each lesson. I have the outcomes there that the kids need to show. And then this is what each of the unit lessons look like. So the lesson, a focus, which is usually related to the outcomes. I have step-by-step beginning, middle, and end of the lesson. I have the resources that I'm going to need for it, and I usually have an assessment that I could complete for that lesson to see whether it's successful, to see what the students know. So if I come down here, I know week 8, I'm in lesson 8. Easy, simple when you do it that way, 1 lesson per week. So we're doing alternative uses. So I just copy that and I will paste it. I've got to make sure I'm in the right timetable. Here we go. Don't want to paste it in last year's one. And we just copy and paste it in here. Sometimes the formatting can be a bit off. So like here we've got the bullet points. I don't want the bullet points mainly because there's just not enough room for them. And then for some reason this last one always goes bigger. So I just have to put it down a size. And then I give that a quick read through so I'm familiar with what the kids are actually doing and what's expected of me. So in this case, I have a worksheet that I will need to have photocopied. I usually print off, if I'm using a unit like this, I print off all the resources I need for this at the beginning of the term or at the end of the previous term, usually if I have enough time. So I would usually have this all printed off, but because of all the stuff that happened with COVID and the not knowing whether we were going to be back at school or not, I've actually been printing week to week. I never got a chance. I didn't want to print off, all the stuff at the beginning of the term because I didn't know how many students were going to be back. I just didn't know what was going to happen. It sounded like a big waste of paper, so I just didn't. So I would write that down on a to-do list that I need to print that off, but that's the only resource that I use. And there's pretty much nothing else I need to get ready for that lesson. Now, last on this day, I have STEM. So I would think of a STEM challenge for them. STEM is, even though this should all be capital letters, STEM is science, technology, engineering. Sometimes you put in the art and mathematics, and it's just giving them a challenge that puts their thinking skills to use. And a lot of what I concentrate on is just group work skills, working with people that you don't necessarily like, working to come to a consensus, just some sort of thing that you can work together on. Now, I've actually been really wanting to make catapults lately. So in this case, I will just give them the overarching guideline of you need to project a object, so maybe a bottle cap is what I'll probably tell them, 1 meter away. What can you use to do that without using your hands? You need to build some sort of thing. Now, depending on what their prior knowledge is, I might actually need them to go and look up pictures of catapults. I might need them to investigate mechanisms of levers to send them. Or I might even show them, one of the ones I did last year was just the simple catapults with 5 pop sticks and 2 lucky bands. That's all you need to make it. I might show them a version of that first. Here's how to use it, and then give that to them and say modify it to get it to throw further or something like that. My class actually has a pretty good understanding of catapults, so I'm actually going to say design your own plans or label plans before they can start building. Okay, so what I usually do with the labeled plans is once they've built it, they may have to change things because not everything they plan is going to work. So I do ask them to write down the changes that they make and why they make them, or at least come and talk to me about why they want to go away from their plan. And then, of course, we will test the catapults. So by having an aim for that lesson, that is, it must shoot over a meter, it means everybody can say whether they were successful in achieving that or not successful. And then, of course, we can have a competition to see which one goes furthest and bring in our math skills for measurement and those kind of things. But not everything has to be a competition, and not everyone's going to feel like, they were a failure because they didn't win. It's just, well, first of all, you just got to achieve the aim of the lesson, which is just to achieve a meter. Okay, so coming back up here on Thursdays, we've got a poetry lesson. So I'm just going to go back to last year because I know I did poetry. I'm just going to copy and paste. This copy and paste thing saves so much time, and it is the reason why I love unit planners. And I strongly recommend that you try and spend your time at the beginning of each term on your holidays, if you're going to work on your holidays, if you're a new grad or you're not somebody who's been in a year level for a long time, is just spend your time doing unit planners. Work out what you're going to do. They don't have to be as detailed as what this is. My unit planners when I first started were just some keywords. Like, this is the idea I'm going to do my first lesson, and this is where I'm going to take them, and then this is where we're going to finish up. It was just a pathway. It was just laying out and sequencing the content and getting lesson ideas, and that's fine. Do a brainstorm for it. I always start off my unit planners with a brainstorm, and then I start to put numbers next to them of which activity I want to do first, second, third, and plan it out that way. And then once you've got these unit planners, it is just so easy to copy and paste from them, and slowly each year add a bit more detail if you'd like more detail to teach from. Obviously, my unit planners are a little bit more detailed because I sell them, I give them to other people to use, so they need to be able to read them. But I love using that level of detail in my weekly planners, because then if I am sick or my daughters are sick and I have to take the day off school, I don't have to worry about providing relief notes. My planners already say it all. So if I keep scrolling down here, this is my grammar lesson, even though it doesn't say grammar in there. And this week I have to do prepositions. So let's put grammar as a title back in there. Grammar, prepositions. Now, did I teach prepositions in week 8 of last year? That is the question. Nope. Apparently I did synonyms and antonyms, so I've tweaked that around a bit. Now, I probably can't think of one off the top of my head right now for prepositions, so I'm just going to highlight that and I'm going to come back to it later, because if I sit here now and try and think of what it is and waste my time on it, I'm not going to get as much done. So I'd rather leave this to last and come back to it and achieve more during my planning session if I was at school, etc. So as you can see, I actually have a lot of dot. I have extra dot this year than most other teachers because my kids get an extra science lesson every week, and also because I run the PBS team at my school, I get extra dot for that. So that's why it looks like I have heaps of non-teaching time. Okay, coming up here on Fridays, as you can see, it's a lot of just the same thing. Spelling is done the same way each day. I have a video on my spelling program if you're interested in finding out how it works, but I don't have to prep anything for it. The look, cover, write check sheets with the words on it are already there. Roller shape will be a presentation, on a slide, on a PowerPoint presentation that I put up, and it will explain to them how it works. Then on creative writing at the moment this term, we are working through a novel writing prompt series. So there are 9 prompts. Each one equates to a chapter of a book. So we are up to day 8. And again, this is just something that I've done up on a PowerPoint slide. So I just take them to day 8 and it's a prompt, tells them what to write, and they go ahead and do it. Vocabulary here, it starts off at the beginning of the week with a list. They have a book with the entire year's worth of vocabulary words in there. We define it at the beginning of the week. We spend a couple of lessons just defining them, learning their definition, repeating them, adding them to sentences, writing sentences of their own. And then on Fridays, we do an activity. Sometimes that's matching up definitions, which is something I've got to cut up and prepare for them. Sometimes it's a worksheet. Sometimes it's a worksheet, but one that they rule up themselves in their exercise book. Sometimes it's just a talking prompt. So for that activity, I believe it's just a definition match. And then Fridays are my easy days. I plan my Fridays to be nice and simple. 1, because it's the end of the week and everyone's tired. 2, I don't have any non-contact teaching time on Friday. So I got to teach the whole day, so you got to pace yourself. So after our easy routine morning, we jump into library after recess where, as it says, students swap books, and we have a set of students who volunteer to read books to the class. They're only allowed to read once a semester because it's so popular, because everyone loves doing it. So we work our way through them. We do the next math lesson, and then we come back and we read a few chapters of our novel after our math lesson. Then after lunch, we do silent reading. We watch an episode of BTN, and then we finish off with finishing off time. But we usually get most of the stuff finished off during the week. And because I am a big believer in students marking a lot of their own work, unless I really need the information for assessments or something where I don't want them marking it themselves first and possibly changing the answer, we don't have a lot of finishing off time stuff to do, because if they don't finish it during the lesson, we've already gone through the answers anyway. So they will have completed the sheet while we go through the answers. And the way that I structure a lot of my worksheets, I don't expect every student to finish them. I start off with easy questions at the top, and by the bottom, it's a lot harder questions. So the students are going to do what they're able to do. Those who are able to will do the whole sheet, not expecting everyone to. So there's my Friday, nice, simple, and easy. Now you can see here that my formatting's gone a bit weird, so I'll just tap that down. Looking at this, I think I could just about go back to a one-page planner, but that's something for another day. Okay, so coming back down here, I've just got this preposition lesson to do. Now, one of the things that I would actually do with prepositions, or a topic where I've got to plan something, is I'd go back to the outcomes. So I would go back to my Year 5 outcomes, I would look them up, and I'd go, okay, what is it in Year 5 that they actually have to learn? Why is it that I put prepositions down as a topic on my term planner? Because when I do my term planners, I'm taking that all at the beginning of the year, going through the checklist of the curriculum and looking at what things I need to pull out and teach. So I'd go back to there and I'd say, okay, what is the outcome? So let's bring that up so you can see what I mean. So that's going to be under General, Australian Curriculum, Year 5, Checklists. Okay, and again, these are all free in my TPT store. So looking at English. Now, one thing you can do is if you press Ctrl F on a Windows computer, you can actually search the document for a particular word. So if we're looking for prepositions, if I type that in, I'm just going to leave off the S just in case it doesn't have the S in there. Okay, didn't find one on that page, so I'll go to the next one. Not on that page. Not there. Okay. Okay, so preposition didn't come up as a keyword, so that means that it must be within something else that I've unpacked. So looking through them, I think it might be this one. Understand how noun groups, phrases, and adjective group phrases can be expanded in a variety of ways to provide a fuller description of person, place, thing, or idea. I think it's probably related to that, and I've picked that apart. Another thing you can do is you can just go to Google and type preposition in. Find out what it's about. Find out what is it that the students need to know about that. You can even just type in preposition activity and see what comes up with that. So I might even go preposition Year 5 and just have a look at what kind of things come up. Pinterest can also be a great one to go and look at and just, explore, find some ideas, see what's out there. Choose the preposition. Don't you just love downloading free resources? Okay, so I think I'm going to keep this lesson just really, really simple. I found this resource here that was completely free, Googled Preposition Activities. It was one of the first ones that came up. I think I'm going to go through it with my students and define what a preposition is with them. And then I'm going to bring this up so they can spot which word is the preposition in the sentence and just keep it really simple. Not everything has to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a full big on lesson. So we're going to define it, find it in a sentence, and then we might write 3 sentences with a preposition and underline
a preposition. And you don't always need a worksheet for things. My kids are quite fine to do that in their writing book. So once I've done that, I just kind of have a quick look through, make sure I've covered all the areas. Again, if there was anything I wasn't sure of, I would have just highlighted it so it's easy to check. But, sometimes you miss things, so just looking through, making sure it's enough. This one looks very, very empty at the moment, but I think we're actually pretty good. Okay, so now that that timetable is done, I would print that and I would then go and get that off the printer and put it straight into my planning book so it's all ready to set up next week. But what I want to show you now is those maths programs. So in year 5, it was multiplication and division. So that's going to come under operations, multiplication and division. And this is the planner that I would print out. Now, because I'm young and my eyes are still pretty good, what I actually do is I actually print this 2 to a page. So you just go up here and you go print. What I do here is just say that we want 2 pages per sheet, and then this is going to print on a portrait sheet with 1 up the top and 1 down the bottom, and then I just print it front to back, and then I've only got 1 piece of paper for my whole week's maths content. Sorry, that just closed off. Let me open that back up again. So I've got the same kind of planner that I use for my unit plans. I've got the outcomes that I'm covering here. And then down here is where I've got my lesson. And you can see there is a lot to that lesson. There are a lot of steps because when I teach maths, it's a lot about the little things, like the little practices, the little examples, the little activities that bring it all together. And sometimes I might have a worksheet to go with it. In this lesson here, there is no worksheet. It's just all games, activities, and talking and discussion and figuring things out. So you can see why there's no way that I could copy and paste this and fit it onto my planner over here. It would just balloon out. I'll show you. So even if I took away the things, it's just, yeah, it's almost hitting the end of the page. So by the time I do that to the 4 other days, it's just too much. So I'll take out that.
So that's how I plan for the week. Pretty easy, and I've gotten pretty quick at it. Sometimes I can do that in under 15 minutes, so that's really cool. Then the next thing I do is I just get a pad of paper and a pen, and I plan out anything I need to prep, anything I need to print, anything I need to photocopy, and then that's my next step. I go and start organizing those if I can during that prep session, if I have enough time, and if the resources are available and all that jazz. So I hope you guys got some useful tips out of this today. I hope that's helped you in some way. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye!